Okay, morning, people. I actually woke up at I've been waking up at 3:30 almost every day now for a week. Not unusual for me. I tend to wake up, I'll meditate. Sometimes I use the opportunity to do my little daydream manifesting, but I actually fell back asleep today, so I'm a little sleepy still. But I'm waking up. I feel like singing that Folder song now. The best part of waking up. Anyways, something that's been on my mind a lot lately, because I've been seeing it almost feels like an escalation of energy building up in a lot of these online content creators who focus on leveling up or manifestation or, what have you, right? But there's a lot of focus lately on these details, these smaller details in our lives that take away from the main focus of a spiritual journey, or the main focus of how to achieve that level of intuitive self-awareness where you can manifest anything you want. A lot of people make a lot of rules, and I think some of us need them at first. I know I did. It's why I really jumped on, the whole neurodivergent bandwagon when I found out my doctor diagnosed me with ADHD, and I qualified to be tested for, the autism spectrum and stuff, because all my scores, my screening scores were insane. But yeah, so I needed that at that time. I needed the rules that came with being neurodivergent, because I still needed rules. I wasn't ready to be free of all rules. I still needed some sort of a structure to follow, because it's not easy breaking out of the system, the programming that we are made to believe since birth of this world, this earth game. And I have no shame in admitting that I needed to incrementally separate myself from the system, right? So I was picking a different system that worked better for me until I finally reached the level where I'm I don't need a system. I'm good now. Thank you. But I still needed those, right? So there's nothing wrong with needing a structure or a system or a set of rules to help you grow if that's where you're at. There really is no judgment, right, for anyone, so don't judge yourselves. Source isn't judging you. Source is everything. Source is part of those systems. So everything serves a purpose, and if you're called to experience something, don't think it, don't judge it, experience it. There's a reason your higher self wants you to experience it if you're being nudged that way, right? If it feels exciting, if it feels like this is right, you know that feeling in your heart, follow those, okay? And don't judge them. But I am seeing, and I think it's because a lot of people are starting to reach this level where they need to let go of the need for the system of any kind, or the rules, or the guidance, because it boils down to something very simple, this journey. And it's simple but not, and that's learning to love yourself. All of it, okay? And I want to be very clear about this. All of it. Religion, manifestation coaches, spiritual leader coaches, connecting to your higher self, raising your vibration, all of that naturally, and I'm not kidding, it naturally will come to you if you focus on going inside to the dark void, the space in you that's kind of scary but full of endless, limitless potential, right? I mean, dark energy, dark matter, they call it dark because they can't define it. They're not calling it dark because of the color. I mean, it looks dark maybe, but that's not the point. I don't know. Again, color's all perception. That's all what your brain can actually physically see, which, by the way, I believe with the power of the mind, you can change what you want to see, right? Mind over everything. Mind over matter. That's the essence of magic. And I think that is not fully possible, mind over matter, until you begin to truly love yourself. Because having that connection with yourself, learning that all the parts of you that had to adapt to whatever you went through, especially those of us with complex trauma, trust me, we all have things we did to adapt, some good, some bad, but good and bad are just definitions made by the society and the culture we live in and could be argued in multiple levels. So don't get hooked on the good and the bad, okay? It's like people saying cannabis is bad when other cultures use it regularly because they can harness the energy from cannabis for their visions or for creating peace, right? I mean, everyone's different. Do not think you have to follow a set of rules. Do not think that if you're not doing it like that guy, you're doing it wrong, because there is no right or wrong. And again, I want to really nail this home. It all comes back to loving yourself, because source, I want to call it source. I don't want to call it God. I mean, you can call it whatever you want. I call it source because it is the source of all things, all energies, all archetypes, all life, all everything. So I like to call it source. Source created you as an individual to have an individual experience. So as an individual who's been created with the purpose of having an individual experience, but you're still connected to everything, do you think you're supposed to do everything like everybody else? You're supposed to do it your way, and your way is going to be unique to you. So try it other people's ways until you figure out what you like, what you don't like. It's like when I start a new job, I often had this thing where I could excel at any job I was placed in because I'd spend the first 2-3 months just mastering everything they taught me. And once I mastered what they taught me, I'm like, okay, now I'm going to make it better. And I always did. For me, maybe not for them. So skip the crap about everything if you want and just focus on learning how to connect to yourself, your higher self, and learning how to love all pieces of you, all parts of you, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that will require inner childhood, healing. You're going to have to heal all parts of you. I mean, recently I've even gone back to myself from last year and healed some of those parts. So you're going to heal all parts of you over time. You really are. It's going to be great. So that's part of it, connecting to yourself and elevating all of that. But you don't have to focus on those little tiny details, like what was so wrong about my relationship with my mom. Who knows? That was then. That was your relationship with your mom. How's your child doing? How does it feel? Feel it, heal it, and then move on. Because if you focus too much on those past events, you're playing them out in your head over and over and over. And when you focus your attention on something, and any image, any visualization, story, power of any kind, it starts to become reality, even if you don't want it to be. So you could be healing and you could be almost totally over all of that crap. But if you're not letting go of those stories because you're trying to heal your inner child by focusing on those stories, they're gonna haunt you. That's just my opinion, but that's kind of how I've been witnessing it. So I think a lot of these excess energies, a lot of these coaches and spiritual leaders and manifestors are having is because they've reached that level where it's time to go inside and finish loving themselves completely, and choosing yourself every day. And things become not easier, but they become simpler because you understand that it's not about all those tiny details that are set there to distract you by ego. It's about connecting to yourself and source and finding out what true unconditional love truly feels like. And knowing you can sit in a room with anyone, anywhere. Call them toxic, call them drug addicts, call whatever you want to call them. Because I lived below the poverty line. I've also experienced being a guest or a part of a family that had lots of money. We're all just people, okay? And you should be able to sit anywhere with anyone and experience them for as long as you want to. Honor yourself, hold your integrity. When you're done experiencing them, you're done, it's okay. But you should be able to do that without it altering who you are. Meaning you don't act in a way that does not correlate with how you feel in your heart who you are, which a lot of us do. We behave in ways that are not true to ourselves, not authentic, because we haven't learned to love ourselves yet. So start there. Forget the rest for now.